Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's Wade Lightheart from Bioptimizers with another edition of the Awesome Health Podcast. And today, from the land down under, we have none other than Julian Mitchell joining us. He is the co-founder of Life Cykel in 2015 after discovering how to grow gourmet mushrooms from, get this, waste coffee grounds. We'll have more about that in a minute. Leaving their health professions jobs in the WA mines. I don't know where the W mines are. We'll find out about that in a sec. They set out on a mission to inspire new attitudes toward food production, waste products, and mushrooms. So, of course, Julian grew up in Australia, and he's very passionate about nature, human performance, sustainability, leading to completing his physiotherapy degree. But prior to founding this, Julian worked as a physiotherapist in the English Premier League before his entrepreneurial drive and belief in building a sustainable future led him to working on mushroom biotechnologies. He now specializes in creating new mushroom products and technologies to biohack our daily performance and believes mushroom technology will play a key role in our evolution as both individuals and species. I've been traveling here during the holidays, and I've been taking a bunch of these Life Cykel mushrooms, which is interesting. They got a tincture that they're doing, and we'll talk about it. So, Julian, welcome to the show.
Excited to chat mushrooms, Wade. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm always fascinated with mushrooms. Have been used throughout history in a variety of different cultures, and they're pretty fascinating organisms, and human bodies are actually the closest thing to mushrooms as we can get. It's why antifungals can be so damaging to people's health. How did you end up in the whole mushroom conversation, and how did you grow mushrooms out of waste coffee? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't a natural trajectory. Sort of as you mentioned, my background was physio and elite sport and human performance, and very interested in that medical side. And then I guess from there, it was looking at what was going to unfold into the future. And this was 5 years ago. The CBD movement was just sort of kicking off then, and Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods and all these companies, I guess, were going down the path of, biotechnology, the future of food, the future of how do we medicate ourselves, and how do we do that. And I guess we were doing a lot of research at that time and seeing what else was going to had opportunity, had scale, and had a real impact. And looking at the literature, as you just mentioned, and the historical events of mushrooms, it was really like an uncharted continent. It'd been dabbled in bits and bobs, but it hadn't had its time in the sun, which it's having right now, and which it will continue to have. It's not sort of a fad that will come and go. Mushrooms and mushroom biotechnology is an enormous wave. And so it was really understanding that wave hadn't gone yet, and that it ticked a lot of boxes from us from a personal philosophy point of view, from sustainability to ethos to organic to non-GMO to no pesticides to very low water use in terms of the growing aspects of it. And then the application aspect of it was infinite, from medicines to the mushroom leather to breaking down biodiesels and hydrocarbon contaminants, to breaking down plastic, to being a replacement for antibiotics in particular populations, to really specializing in I guess addressing other issues amongst disease populations. So it just had such a broad spectrum. It was uncharted, and it was like, let's go that way. And we started growing mushrooms, and that was our foundation, was growing mushrooms. And so that's where we looked at, how do we grow mushrooms? What can we grow mushrooms off? And in the town and city that I was in, very, very big coffee culture, like most of the world, a very big coffee culture. And so this is an agricultural waste that goes to landfill. And so it's something that can be used. And so at the start, we were really growing these mushrooms from coffee waste that we would collect from cafes and restaurants. Then we would return these gourmet mushrooms, oysters, shiitakes, lion's manes, to these restaurants to put on their menu. So it was a closed loop system, a circular economy, and that's something that's sustainable going forward as to how do we think about the whole supply chain of where things come from and where they go after. And so that was sort of where we started.
And just a quick question on that, because mushrooms are such a fascinating. What does sustainability mean to you? Because I see that word kind of bandied around a lot in the world, but oftentimes I don't know if it's clearly defined. So I'd like to hear what your version of sustainability, and then particularly to mushrooms.
I think at the core of it, it's like, can we do this into the future for an infinite amount of time because we're maintaining our homeostatic balance? Just like within our body, maintaining our own health from a sustainable point of view is maintaining homeostasis, and our body naturally does that. So how do we do that with our environment? So we're not this parasite to this planet, and we're just taking and sucking and taking and sucking to the point that we deplete it. How are we also regenerating our environment and replenishing our environment so then that environment can feed us? And so that means really balancing our resources and being real about what we're doing and where our products and things are going at the end of the day also. So it's a new conversation, but it's something that I guess, as you're mentioning, like it's becoming a bit greenwashed in many ways, and it can. And it's about taking real action and doing real things. And so from our point of view, we have full transparency of our supply chain because we're vertically integrated. We grow our mushrooms ourselves, both in Australia and in the US. We have a farm in Wisconsin. And then, so, it's understanding that whole process. And then even within, the mushroom industry, replacing plastic bag use in the growing operations, minimizing water use, staying away from pesticides. So sustainability is resource-based. And it is also, I think, just about returning to working in combination and team with nature as much as possible. Especially in biotechnology, you can get away from that. You can get excited by technology, and this will do that, and we can pull these genes from here, and that's great. But it's doing a disservice to what nature's evolved from for hundreds and thousands of years. So it's about working in harmony with that, from the way we grow our mushrooms to the way we sort of, I guess, close the loop. And mushrooms specifically, are the grand recyclers of nature. That when a tree falls onto the forest floor, you're going to find that chitin cannot be broken down, which is a compound within the tree. And so fungi help break that down, returning it to soil, return those nutrients to the ground, so then other trees and other life forms can come up. And so it's that life cycle that mushrooms are very much involved in, that death piece and that rebirth piece. And so taking that, I guess, on board with how we run our business in terms of having a closed loop as much as possible with what we do.
Beautifully and succinct description of what that is. So one of the things that struck me and was that you guys are able to provide mushroom, I guess, concentrations in tinctures that you can carry and spray and are very convenient. I've had a lot of different mushroom advocates, and I'm a big believer in the use of mushrooms, but I have yet to see anybody. And by the way, you have beautiful, attractive packaging, very convenient. How did you get into using tinctures as a way to distribute the benefits of the mushrooms that you grow and serve the world with?
Yeah, I guess it was a matter of just looking at so many aspects of the consumer experience, but also from a science point of view, which we're deeply embedded in. We've now got 12 in the team, from nanotechnologists to biotech engineers to food scientists to microbiologists to mycologists. So we're constantly evolving, and we're evolving the extraction processes. But we've just found, from a bioavailability point of view, when we're mixing it with the kakadu plum, which is a native Australian bush food, into a liquid form, it was just more bioavailable. It was more convenient to consumers. It tasted better. But we will have also a gel capsule come out in 2021, which will be great. And it was just also a production and a scale point of view. So it was tying all of those things together with our technology, and I guess where we're going to be heading in the future, which is down the path of nanoliposomal extractions and really doing stuff on that sort of cellular nanotech level. So the liquid extracts have been very popular in that sense, and we do sell powder forms of our products. But out of the last 6 months, we've had about 4,500 reviews, and out of those, we get very little for the powdered product, if any. So we just, I guess, went naturally with the market, that in the mushroom form, the liquid extract seems to be very popular, and the results are very much noticed within the first couple of days. And so we just went down that path and listening to the consumer, I guess, as well.
Yeah, one of the things I struck me as I was flying here is I just took out, flying. I'm in quarantine right now in Canada. I came across the border from the United States and had to go through all that rigmarole and everything. And I have to say it was really nice. I had my, my turkey tail and cordyceps and reishi and lines. And I'm on my plane and I'm just spraying the stuff into my throat and everything. Like, oh, this is great, man. And so I really appreciate the convenience that you have of the product. What are the particular mushrooms for, or who are they for, and which ones do you suggest? Do you suggest using them all at the same time, or one's an individual size, or where do you think that mushrooms are best applied for people's health and for people's performance?
Mm. I think the beautiful thing about mushrooms is there's a key to unlock many different doors, and so it's a matter of what doors you want to unlock. But from my own point of view, I'm sort of rotating and throughout the day different mushrooms, and I'm existing on mushrooms in symbiotic relationship with them. But if you're an entry level person who has never really got into them, it's really about understanding which one may benefit you the most. Lion's mane is probably by far our best performer in the sense that people will notice that pretty instantaneously within a day or two from a cognitive point of view. And so that's always pretty popular for memory recall, for focus, for clarity, for increase in REM sleep. And you notice that in dreaming. And so you get very vivid dreams, very high definition dreams that you're able to recall. And for some, people, some athletes, like we've got a lot of surfers and UFC fighters, any sport where there's some, I guess, micro concussions or head trauma on any aspect, they seem to really benefit from that one in the evening for sleep. And they finally get a really good sleep because there is that micro trauma attached to those sports. So there's that neuroinflammation. And so we know, the nerve growth factor that is promoted by lion's mane, it really helps with that, helps consolidate and return that memory and that sharpness and that clarity. We had one athlete, Owen Wright, who had a near-death experience in a pipeline injury where, a near-death experience I didn't even know was sort of diagnosed by the amount of DMT you have in your blood at that point in time when you go to the hospital. And he made his way back and, sort of surfing it back to a sort of a 7 out of 10 in terms of performance, but then really, tried the lion's mane, used it and felt that it worked wonders for him. So we get a lot of those anecdotal stories and we need to tie them up into something more formal. But that's sort of the lion's mane, is that head trauma, that focus, that cognitive flow in symbiosis with other tactics and techniques. And then the cordyceps for vitality, energy, stamina. It's great to come off of coffee with as well, in terms of if we're getting drained from those adrenals and we're getting that fatigue. That's an amazing one for that. It does have antiviral properties also, so it does have the ability to, I guess, interrupt the RNA and DNA replication of viruses. And so that's been shown in research, and so that's a great one for actually maintaining immunity, which all of them can do. They're all, at the core of it, these medicinal mushrooms are immune powerhouses, and then beyond that, they've got these other superpowers, if you like. So the lion's mane for the brain, the cordyceps for energy, stamina, libido, vitality. You've got the reishi, which is very much almost like a natural sedative. It's very calming. It's very zen. It's very like you've just got out of a yoga flow. Very much the feminine energy, and the women really resonate with that really a lot. And anyone who's sort of overthinking and caught in their mind, which we can do, I'm sure anyone in business and anyone with a busy life, which is everyone, can benefit from the reishi, especially before bed. So the lion's mane and reishi pairing in the evening works really well together. And then you have the turkey tail, which we've found for some digestion and some mood and some anxiety, works really well. I mean, there's been some great research out there for turkey tail in conjunction with chemotherapy. So, but at its core, it's really another promoter and a good one for gut health. And then you have shiitake for hair, skin, and nails, and you really notice your nails get pretty strong and grow pretty fast, a bit like Wolverine. And then you get for men, you might have to shave your beard a bit more often, and so that's also got lentin in it as well, which is great for preventing anti-aging in the form of photoaging in the form of breakdown of elastin. So we speak a lot about collagen, but the other key component of healthy skin is elastin. And so lentinin helps prevent the elastase, which is stimulated by UV and sun, which breaks down the elasticity of your skin. So that's the shiitake mushroom.
Beautiful. And now you've gone to move into these sprays and stuff, and I think I love the convenience because I've done the capsules and I've done powders and I've done teas and I've done all sorts of things, and I use mushrooms on a daily basis. Two questions that come up, I guess, is what is specific dosage, and can you take too much, or the frequency that you can use? Can you take them all at the same time? Is that beneficial? Or how do you go about the day of using the Life Cykel products? Because I'm fascinated by, like, I just get them and I want to like spray them all. It's like, this is awesome. So like it's I like the tactile component of just spraying my mushrooms. It's a nice change from doing the powders and pills and things like that. So can you tell me a little bit about the idea
and how
behind
did you find the taste with the lemon myrtle? What did you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's just great. I mean, most mushrooms have what, for lack of a better, kind of a fermented mushroom flavor, but these are just lovely.
Yeah. So the lemon myrtle, which I'll just touch on that for a second because it's quite a foreign ingredient. It comes from Australia. It's an indigenous bush fruit here. The lemon myrtle is known to be more lemon than lemon, is sort of what they say, because even the leaves, when you whack them into a tea, it's a very, very strong lemon tea, but it has great antiviral, antibacterial properties, and it probably also helps make it a bit more addictive or palatable, because a lot of tinctures in their nature are very not nice on the palate, to be honest.
Not at all.
And it's probably stopped the adoption of them, to be honest. They're very powerful and they're great, and they're very potent in tincture form as well. But the taste, leaves a lot to be desired, so it's hard to consume. So taste is obviously important. So yeah, with my daily regimen and what I've found works, and what works for a lot of people is really the cordyceps lion's mane in the morning, the turkey tail as well, and then throughout the day you can have a little bit more of that, especially early afternoon. If you're trying to wean off coffee, or you're feeling that you're dipping somewhat, you just have some more lion's mane and cordyceps, like half a serving, 1 meal, 1 to 2 meal. I mean, it really varies. I mean, when I was on the podcast with Dave Asprey from Bulletproof, just before that, Dave had 12 dropperfuls of cordyceps, and on the podcast he was ready to run a marathon. He was really ready to go, and he's like, this is probably my upper limit. This is probably my limit of what to consume. But when you're an athlete, I guess what I learned from different athletes and things is that obviously you need to tailor it to yourself, and you need to tune into your intuition, and the servings that we have are a great guide. But if you're looking to go higher and farther and further and find peak performance, then you really need to tune into your body and find what that amount and what that serving, what that dose is for you. But a standard dose of 2 mil per day, and most importantly also the consistency of regularity, day after day, you get that accumulative build-up and that accumulative flow that you'll find. And what we also find a lot of is when people say, oh, I went on a holiday, I went overseas, I did this, and I forgot my mushrooms, and they really felt it, and they really noticed that that's when they weren't on them. So it's funny like that. But yeah, with the sprays, they're also great to have on the run, and so it's sort of a constant microdosing throughout the day, where you're just spraying small amounts in, and you're getting that sublingual hit, you're getting that straight to the brain, especially with the lion's mane, that brain cognition aspect of it, and the reishi if you're just feeling overwhelmed, especially for traveling as well, like you said, on the plane. You've got people around you, maybe some people coughing, you're on a long flight, the air's stale in those things. It's an amazing vessel for carrying pathogens, and who knows what's going on in there. And so just keeping the sprays close by on hand, like in your tool belt, keeps you in a survival mode. And we've had a lot of surfers and other athletes also talk about just throughout the season, not so much this season because most seasons of sport have been cancelled, but last season and the season before, they noticed that they didn't get unwell and sick, because when you're going from plane to plane and from meeting to meeting and from sporting event to sporting event, you can get run down. And so that's also the key to performance, is consistency of health and well-being, and not getting caught up.
The Bioptimizer mission is to help more of the world fix their digestion at a core level. The truth is, your digestion is only as good as your enzyme levels. Imagine trying to build a house with a tree. It's impossible. You need to chop the tree down into small pieces. Similarly, in order for your food to be used by your body, it must be broken down into a bioavailable form. And that's what enzymes do, converting protein into amino acids, fats into specific fatty acids, and carbohydrates into usable energy units. We start out with an abundance of enzymes, and that's why kids can digest just about anything really quickly. The thing is cooking food kills enzymes as they cannot survive at temperatures above 118 degrees. So years of this ends up depleting our bodies and leads to weak digestion. Taking digestive enzymes like masszymes, which has an incredibly high level of protease for digesting protein, as well as other critical enzymes like lipase, amylase, and others is a total game changer. Suddenly you strengthen your digestion, eliminate gas and bloating, boost metabolism, and multiply your energy. Most importantly, you fix your digestion at a core level. To get started with masszymes and to save 10% on your first order, go to masszymes.com. That's masszymes.com and use the code MASS10, MASS10.
Based on what you've said, there's, you can kind of go with these ad nauseum and with no need, you don't need to go off them. You don't need anything. You can just keep taking them. And it seems there's prolonged, like, build up positive benefits. The more you take it, the more they work. And that's what's really interesting about mushrooms as opposed to drugs. What are some of the challenges that you had or had to overcome, or specific things, without giving proprietary information, about growing mushrooms? I think growing mushrooms is it's such a trip compared to maybe other types of things that you might grow. What are some of the things that you've learned or were unexpected about the growing process?
Yeah, it's I'm surprised I do have all my hair from those early days of growing mushrooms and trying to grow a business at the same time. It's like it's two hard things to be doing. But the mushroom aspect of it is, it's not like putting a seed in the ground and leaving it in water and sunlight. Of course, as you may know, it's sort of very much a laboratory environment, especially in its early days, where you're working out of petri dishes. You're working with very clean air that's purified in the room. The lighting needs to be very precise, and obviously the person that's working needs to be sterilized and have everything very sterile, the equipment that you're using, because what you're doing at the early point of view is you're trying to culture mushrooms, and you're giving the mushrooms the best chance to grow. And it's these bacteria and these other pathogens that are beyond the ability for the human eye to see, that are also growing at that same time and competing for that nutrient source. And so you've got to give those mushrooms the first, advantage in every aspect that you can, and every 1% chance helps that mushroom grow and become strong, and that genetic expression become healthy and strong, to then, down the track grow amazing, mushrooms. And so early days, there was a lot of contamination. I remember celebrating when we grew our very, very first mushroom, because we sort of went into the business going, yeah, we're going to have a mushroom business, we're going to grow mushrooms, never having grown a mushroom, never having been to a mushroom farm. It was just that it made sense to do that, and we're passionate. And so, I've got images of, doing it in my kitchen and different things like that, and growing them in a cellar room, and just, disaster after disaster after disaster of just not working. So the contamination is a huge thing for mushrooms, and we've been able to, over a period of 5 years, and bringing on expertise and through learning and having a great network of other mushroom growers, combine our knowledge and our collective learnings to be able to really grow amazing mushrooms. And that's been a huge win. And then the next part of it, of course, with business and agriculture, is timing, and then also scaling. And so it's easy, similar to the hemp space, where it's easy to grow maybe 100 plants in a hemp farm or a CBD, but scale that to 1,000, scale that to 10,000 to 100,000. What happens is the difficulties and the problems grow exponentially as well.
Correct.
And so that's also the aspect of how do we scale this effectively, with contamination, with it being at the end of the day agriculture. And so going back to that very first question the second question around sustainability is, how do you keep it as natural as possible? And so what we've found is having several farms is useful as well. Instead of just one big, gigantic, monolithic farm, it also helps keep the quality as well. And so I think that's a part of the future, as well as decentralization of agriculture and small plots of agriculture is important for quality, for taste, for flavor, for localization, especially when it comes to fresh food. But for us, that's why we grow in the US as well, because we wanted to have something local there and work with those local conditions and local ingredients, and not just be shipping from here necessarily. So it's something we were able to do, and very excited to be set up in the US.
Really commendable. And it comes to mind when producing it, and I know how difficult it is, and to create a breakthrough product, and you have beautiful labeling, beautiful sauce. What are some other things that you didn't anticipate maybe on this journey, either benefits from growing or challenges with your business? What are some other things that people might not be aware of about mushrooms?
Yeah. I think that one of the first things is just how quickly they grow, actually, which is a very attractive thing. From an agricultural point of view, how quickly they grow. So to get a harvest and to get a fruit within, depending on the mushroom, anywhere from 12 days. I mean, the shiitake is up to about 38 days, but you've got oysters and other mushrooms that are 12 days, 15 days to get something that is both a medicinal source in an extract, but also a food source that can replace, your meats and things from a sustainability point of view is amazing. So the speed in which they grow, the efficiency in which they grow, meaning that they're a very intelligent life form that learn to grow and eat different forms of waste very quickly. So they're extremely adaptive. And I guess these philosophies, even without us even knowing it, we sort of embodied ourselves into the company culture of being extremely, collaborative in our nature with other businesses and other groups and organizations that are aligned on that health mission. Because mushrooms are very collaborative. That's what they do in nature. And they live mycelium, which is the roots of the mushrooms. It lives underground. It's connecting all life form in forests. And if you go to a healthy forest, which you will do in Canada, I'm sure, a plethora of mushrooms and a plethora of mycelium, which is that white cobweb looking that you find on the underside of fallen logs. Even if you lift up some big rocks in the forest, you'll find mycelium on the undersurface, and that mycelium is breaking down the nutrients and attaining the nutrients and the minerals from those rocks, exchanging them with the trees, so passing them onto the trees because the roots cannot absorb the rocks and the minerals, and in exchange the trees are giving starches and sugars to the mycelium. So it's a collaborative network. It's one of the first business transactions that ever took place. It's one of the joint ventures that took place. And so mushrooms, I guess, are collaborative. And I think if we can bring that nature and philosophy and understanding to above ground, to humanity, then we'll go a lot further. And that is a part of our evolution, is to be more collaborative in our nature. And I'm sure capitalism and different forms of division can divide us at times, but it's about evolving that philosophy, and mushrooms can definitely teach us that, and nature can teach us that. And so that's one of the things that constantly, brings us back to why we do what we do.
So what's up and coming for your company, Life Cykel, and where are you going, and what's the plans moving forward with your company? Maybe development of products, new mushroom. What's happening at Life Cykel?
Yeah. I mean, I just finished one of our newest products, which is a certified organic turkey tail ginger lemongrass sparkling drink.
Oh, that's cool.
So very, I'm not sure if you can see it too clearly, but
that's great.
Yes, a tasty drink, and so putting those things into RTDs, but at the core of it, our focus is producing the highest quality mushroom liquid extract on the globe as best we can, and that's just because it's our own mission. And I guess seeing that CBD wave and other waves that come, and I mean, I'd love to ask you the same question in terms of being able to stay in the market and maintain a high quality product with high integrity, builds brand, and cannot be sort of commodified. We're just not wanting to see mushrooms be commodified to the point where people say, oh yeah, I tried them, I didn't really get too much from them. They are very powerful, they are very potent, and if it's a quality product, then you will notice it. and it will be a part of your toolkit for health, and an evolutionary tool, which we think mushrooms are an evolutionary tool, just like CBD in its own way. And so I guess doubling down on the science, moving more into, so Life Cykel is one of the companies that we have, but we have a couple of other companies specifically for R&D, and for one company, for example, we work in animal agriculture. And so we have now 4 farms in Australia, some poultry, chicken, egg-laying farms, some aquaculture farms that are now all antibiotic-free. And it's been antibiotic-free for over 2 years now. So that's a very important part of, I guess, using mushrooms and proprietary formulas to, help, I guess, remove, the need for pesticides, the need for antibiotics from our food systems, because they are, an old way of doing things. And so from our next steps, it's scaling really that process and what we've learned there into North America. It's scaling our mushroom extracts into North America, which, because in Australia we've been here for 5 years now, and it's we've become sort of somewhat a household name, and going very well here. So it's about just bringing that quality and maintaining that integrity, and bringing that Australian flavour with the kakadu plum and the lemon myrtle and these bush foods that have, Australia is a very tough environment. It's very harsh. It's either very wet at times, but it's mostly very hot and very dry. And so when you get plants flowering and bush foods growing in those soils that are very dry and hard and arid and hot, it condenses the nutrients and the power within those fruits. And so that's why you get things like the kakadu plum, which has the highest vitamin C of any fruit in the world, which grows in Arnhem Land out near Uluru and up in the northern parts of Australia. So it's really about spending more time in North America, which unfortunately can't do at the moment because of the climate. And it's about bringing these products into different forms, like the oral sprays. And then also we'll be bringing out a whole range of other products, such as the ready-to-go drinks, and just helping people access mushrooms in a wider way, in an easier way, and really feel those benefits.
I absolutely love it. I love your brand. I think it's a breakthrough concept and idea, and the product speaks for itself. Quality is awesome. I love the flavor of it. Can you tell us where people can reach you and find out more about Life Cykel, maybe get access to your products? I would highly recommend people giving them a check out. I think just these tinctures alone blew my mind. I got your delivery of them. It was a beautiful box, very attractive. And then I'm using it and I'm like, wow, I really like these. I feel the potency of them. So I would like to encourage our listeners to go, hey, if you've tried mushrooms, or you like mushrooms, or maybe you haven't, give these things a shot. Where can they reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to one of the challenges of the business early was the learning that, so our company Life Cykel, you can find us at lifecykel.com, but we spelled cycle Cykel, which was inspired by Scandinavia, and we just thought the things that they're doing over in Northern Europe were quite inspiring from an environmental sustainability health point of view. And so we get that a lot of people are spelling it wrong a lot of the time and pronouncing it wrong, but Life, LIFECYKEL.com. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Definitely hit us up with a DM or a message if that's more convenient to any of your listeners. And be sure to try the products out, and any feedback, we're always looking to improve, but we love hearing the stories and the benefits. Do you have a favorite particularly there out of the range?
I would say that I'm really into, well, there's 2 different levels. First off, I like the lion's mane because I do feel that boost. And then of course, I can sometimes drink too much caffeine, and I really like the turkey tail around that to keep those adrenals heavy. So those would probably be my go-tos. Although I've been kind of going a little crazy on them on this trip, flying through the airport. I was just pulling out bottles, just spraying them like crazy. And it was awesome because I fasted during the 26 hours or 27 hours it took me to get here, because I had to go through all the airports and all these kind of waitings. And I just fasted, and I just used the Life Cykel mushrooms. So it was really great. And I used all of them, throughout the entire trip, and had no issues, never got sick or anything else. So I felt really great, and I'm very appreciative of that. So Yeah. But I would say turkey tail and lion's mane, I feel really, really quick. The other ones I think are building up over time. And this lemon myrtle thing really struck me because I'd never had that before. And most mushrooms, if you take some, they it's in the powder form. And I'm the kind of guy that just eats stuff in a spoon and spits it out.
Yeah,
Gets it all over my shirt.
It's good for me. I'll put it down.
Yeah. I'll do all of it. I'll do all of it. But what I love is for people who struggle with this, you really kind of crack the code on something here. And there's a lot of servings in one of these little tinctures. Look at this one. It was like this turkey tail is like 125 servings in this little bottle. How efficient is that? I mean, I would have had to take like kilos of mushrooms to get what I had just in my little carry-on bag. And so that was really grateful. And I think that's a real breakthrough technology of convenience. And so thank you for that.
Awesome. Thanks for trying the products out and reaching out to us.
Well, there you have it, folks. It's Julian Mitchell, the co-founder of Life Cykel. He's made an extraordinary tincture blend of a variety of mushrooms of the highest quality. If you're into sustainable agriculture and the use of mushrooms for health and vitality, definitely give these things a shot. They're simple, they're easy, they're convenient. I love them. I think you will too. That's another episode of the Awesome Health Podcast. I'm Wade Lightheart. I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again really soon. More importantly, take care, be healthy, and lots of love.
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip. Turn cultured foods into superfoods. Raw fermented foods like sauerkraut and low sugar live yogurt can be good for you, but rarely have enough of the right probiotic strains for therapeutic benefit. So here's a way that you can turn them into superfoods. What I do is I get some raw sauerkraut or a healthy yogurt. Ideally, it's grass-fed or coconut-based, and you can empty 3 caps of P3OM into a container and mix it up thoroughly. Leave it at room temperature for a couple of hours before putting it back into the fridge. And what's going to happen is these probiotic levels will be multiplied. In fact, it doubles every 20 minutes. And then what you're going to get is you're going to have a food with strong proteolytic activity. To learn more about P3OM and why its patented strains make it the strongest probiotic available, go to www.bioptimizers.com.
Thank you for listening to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. You can find more information at bioptimizers.com.